the recording isn't gonna. If you're able, I would suggest turning on show keystrokes. Is that something I can do like in like what's it called, WebEx, or is that like an operating system thing? I don't know. Uh, um, yeah. So yeah, recording's going now. Uh, okay, so yeah, last week I talked a little bit about like why you would use Unity, and I made some points about like, oh, it's like really popular. A lot of people use it. A lot of like very big projects use it. Um, a lot of really good ones, and a lot of people use it for VR and AR. But this week we're going to cover like one of the other reasons that I really like about Unity is that because it's so popular, there are a lot of resources out there that kind of do a lot of stuff for you. So if you ever like heard of or looked at the Unity Asset Store, it's enormous, and there are a lot of free assets on here. I have a link. I'll send this doc out afterwards. I guess I can paste it in the chat now, but it's not super helpful because it's just this. There are a lot of free assets in Unity, 250 pages of stuff, like full projects, like assets, like individual characters, particle systems. A lot of them stuff that's from Unity directly is usually really high quality, but there are a lot of other creatives making content for the Unity Asset Store. And if you're making projects like quote unquote more seriously, there's even more in the paid sector of Unity. A lot of people have like built-in ship titles just entirely off of Asset Store things, which I don't recommend, but you can get a lot out of here. So what we're going to cover this week is getting into the Asset Store and modifying stuff that we get to just make it our own. And afterwards, I would suggest like kind of looking through these if you like want some inspiration. There's a lot of, is this the one that I clicked before? There are a lot of like, you can take any of these and just like work with them and make whatever project you want out of them. Okay, I guess I thought I had more intro stuff to go through, but I guess we can just like hop in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a new project. I'm just going to make sure that I'm using the version that we all have, which is 2018.4 something or other. This last number doesn't really matter. So I mean, in a second I'll ask you to do this too, but I like open up Unity Hub, hit new, select my select 3D, and give it a name, Unity Week 2. Probably not going to put this in my downloads because that is a little random. Unity tutorial. Okay. Yeah, put it in there. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to hit create. Actually, while this is going on my screen, this is a good time for you guys to do this. It's a good review too. Hopefully you have Unity Hub installed. And if you don't have this, I think if you just open Unity normally, it'll start you in a new project. But if you have Unity Hub, probably just click this new button, and then 3D, set up the name, set up the location, and get into it. It's definitely like really good practice. This is just a piece of advice, but it's really good practice to like have a new project folder for like everything that you tackle, because this thing, you have to like do this like importing step pretty often, like when you build or like when you load the project for the first time. So if you cram a lot of stuff into one Unity project, it tends to make things take a long time. So keeping your assets folder as light as it needs to be is a good thing to do. So we'll just leave out all the stuff that we did last week and start fresh. Okay, that's not too bad. Seems like this window is maximized for me. Let's undo that. Oh, this is what just happened? I think I just quit Unity accidentally. Please ignore. This is something too that's like good to talk about because the windows in Unity are all like very movable and things. You can get yourself into trouble, and that like right now I can't see my interface. It's just the game screen, right? This is like not probably not what most of you are seeing. Um, I mean, I can go in and like unmaximize it, but if you ever are like, oh no, my windows have gone, you can go into here, Windows layouts, and then default. These are all different like kinds of layouts that you can use to organize Unity, and sometimes there's like good ones depending on what you're doing, but you know that's not really so important. Definitely the thing to remember is if you're in trouble, just like click this button here, Window Layouts Default. Um, okay, cool. Is Aaron's audio a bit weird? I'm just gonna wait for confirmation on that. Maybe I'll just try to talk louder, I guess. Okay, so yeah, like we talked last week about like the different panels here, like the inspector and the hierarchy. You know, like all your objects are here in the hierarchy. The inspector lets you see the different components that are attached to them, and you can modify them. You got different tools for moving things around, stuff like that. We talked about the game screen a little bit. This is like what the game sees, or yeah, when you like build the game or when you like do stuff. This is the output, and you can like make stuff, and it shows up in the scene. And we talked about like making objects and adding rigid bodies. That was a really, really quick overview, but I'm going to go back through all of this stuff. I honestly think one of the last windows in here that you don't know about is the one that I like love the most, and it's the Asset Store tab here. Now I think, and I'm not sure because I already did this, I think it doesn't let you, or it doesn't make you log in yet, but it will like soon. So just like, I'm going to go through and like talk about this for a bit, and then we can go and like download the thing that I'm going to download. But yeah, like I was saying before, it's really like nice to just like sort this by free and get some like free stuff out of here if you like want them, depending on what you're building. It's like, oh look, I can get terrains through this one, or I can get like trees. Those are really nice trees, actually. I gotta mess with that. And like fire particles and things like that. But the one that we're going to be using for today is this one, Low Poly Game Kit. I mean, you can get lost in like trying these out, but this is one that gets you a solid amount of things just kind of out of the box. So if I click on it here, and that is the wrong one. The free one. The one that's grayed out because I already like purchased it. If you click on it here, there should be a download button here, and that's what you would click, and then it makes you log in, and then after that you can click import. And what this will do, blah blah blah, whatever. What this will do when you import stuff from the asset store, it just copies everything, blah blah blah. Yeah, wants dependencies. Yeah, sure, I'll install those. It'll copy everything inside the asset into your project folder. So now, like once this import is finished, I'll like have everything that this asset has. And I can like lose my connection to the internet and all this, like everything will just be part of my project. And when I move it, if I copy it, it'll all be there. I'm not actually depending on anything on the internet. So I think now while this is going, this is a good time for you guys to try this. We might run into some problems with logins and things. But if you go into your Unity and then click on the Asset Store tab in the top middle, and then type in Low Poly Game Kit. I'm just gonna pull up the asset so you know if you're looking at the right one. Yeah, type in Low Poly Game Kit and then click on this one. There's a free one, there's a paid one, just get the free one. And then you'll have to, it'll say like add, yeah, I think it says this, add to my assets, and you want to add it to your account. It'll probably ask you to log in. I don't even know what my Unity login is. I think I have a secondary one just for fun. I do. Yeah. This will be the same sign-in that you use to like download Unity and stuff. Everything is like attached to your account. Yeah, and this means too that like if you do end up buying stuff on the asset store, then it'll always be available to that account. So like if you like log into a different computer, there's like no limits on like number of computers or number of projects that you import stuff into. And even if you pay for an asset, you can like give that project to someone else. There's like no problems there either. Um, I think we touched on this briefly last week, but the only thing about that is like there's like licensing things, so like you might not be able to legally ship a project and make money off of it if you didn't pay for it and stuff like that. But in terms of like getting it and working with it, it's usually pretty easy to just copy projects and give them to people, even if it has paid assets in there. Okay, I'm gonna look at the chat for a second. Ask me to restart required. You probably can just cancel and move on. I mean, I would just like make it not restart your computer if it asks you to, and then see if things break. And if it does, then restart your computer. That's not normally a thing. That's not normally a problem that I know about. Oh, restart Unity. Scripting runtime version has changed. Yeah, that's fine. That's definitely fine. Len's right. Like it'll restart Unity and then it'll be okay. I think that one is the kind of thing that you like let it do. If it wants to restart itself, that's fine. So yeah, so you now once everything is downloaded and compiled, you should see this screen that's just like import Unity package. You can selectively import stuff, which is like nice for some things, but in this case, let's just take everything. It's not going to be really a problem. Nah, I don't care about my. This is the import thing that you guys were just talking about. Yeah, if you get anything that this one says like, oh, it has dependencies and oh, it changes your project settings, just let it happen. Just say yes. Yeah. Yeah. This is another reason that it's like usually a good idea to start with fresh Unity projects, because sometimes assets and importing different things will like do will do things to your project. You don't want to just go in and break your projects randomly. It would make us all sad. Even one thing I do while my Unity is starting up, I'll show you guys one cute little trick that I love doing. If you don't know how to use Git, which is fine, like the whole point of this tutorial is that we don't know how to code. If you need to back stuff up, like literally just copy the project folder and paste it. It's like, okay, cool. Like now I have this backup version of my project, and if anything goes wrong, I can reload that. And you can just keep doing that based on how much like drive space you have, basically. A lot of my projects have like 20 of these copies. Like, it's a great way to just be absolutely sure that like this one will not break, because I know that this is a working version of the project. Let's not do that so my CPU is happier. Okay, cool. So now that I've downloaded everything and I've imported it and Unity has restarted, I now have this fun folder that's titled Low Poly Nature, which is not what the game. I mean, everything's in here. Everything's in here. So the first thing that you should do if you get an asset is check to see if they have an example scene. If we go into the Low Poly Nature folder, hopefully you can see this, and go into the scenes folder. In there's one that's like demo. It's like clear, like, okay, cool. This is probably going to show off what's inside this asset pack. And sure enough, like in our scene now, there's like hella stuff. If I use, I'm just going to go over this a little bit. If I use right click, I can look around, and then like use middle click to like drag the editor, and then hold right click and use WASD to like walk around. If we look here, there's like there's like tree assets in here. There's like sheep things. There's like this little guy here. It's a little creepy looking, but you know, he's a guy. And got like an axe and some ground things. Yeah, he is a little funky looking, isn't he? Oh, and apparently got flowers here. Let's get a close up of that. All right, stumpy arms. But demo scenes, usually you can just hit play and like see what's going on with them. So we're gonna do that here. Hit play. make sure my keyboard layout's correct, and check it out. I press WASD. Apparently I've got like a hunger meter and a health bar. I can like pick up objects and do stuff. I don't know. I think, yeah, if I get this axe and then I click the axe, I can like hit some sheep and get some mutton chops. Pretty extensive asset. You could see yourself doing a lot of different kinds of things with this. But I think the first thing that I really want to do when I get into this is kind of just like test the limits of like what this actually gets us. So we've kind of figured out that like I can like pick up objects. Apparently I've got like press F to like open things. I can like I can walk around. It seems like I apparently die when I run out of food, so I gotta restart this, I guess. It seems like you look at these like the ground here. It's like not flat, so it seems like I have like some crazy physics things going on with this character where he can like walk up slopes or like even walk up short objects and kind of doesn't really care too much about, like, it doesn't count as an obstacle. Oh, apparently if I press space, I can like jump around. So yeah, this is pretty. Oh, I apparently can't move midair. So yeah, this is a pretty good asset. Like, we have good character movement. We got some HUD elements. We've got like animated characters, which is not very normal actually for asset sort of things, and we've got a lot of objects to work with. So yeah, cool. One thing, just looking at this, and I guess like you guys can do that now too if you want. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how this project is structured. Um, oh. Mhm. Yeah. So everything that we imported, a lot of times assets will just import into their own folders, which like we really want because we don't want things to be in random places. So if we go into the low poly nature folder, everything that we get from this asset pack is in here. And I was saying earlier that like what we want to do is like open the demo scene. Like that's the first thing we want to do with new assets. So if we go into low poly nature and then go into scenes, there's just like a demo scene. Yeah, there's just a demo scene chilling in here. And this is kind of like these are just made by people a lot of times, just like like you guys could upload a Unity package. Oh, to open it, you just double click it. Just click on demo and double click it, like it'll open, or it should open, just regular. Like actually definitely double click it. Yeah, that's not the right one. Yeah, this is the one that was already here to begin with. And this is like the scene that was there. Yeah, so like you can reorganize this if you want, where you can like, take this and move it out into the assets, but I'll leave it alone for now. So yeah, no problem. But yeah, play around with the scene a little bit, get a feel for like the controls and the way the guy jumps and stuff like that. Because the goal here really, because we're going no coding. The goal here is to like take what this asset gives us and like make a thing out of it. See what we can make. Like thinking about like the functionality that's already in there and how we can like bend that to like turn it into some kind of experience or like storytelling moment or like even just like a playground for us. Yeah, like actually to that end, so like I'm gonna click on this player dude. Let's see. There you go. Sometimes if I click, there's like random stuff, but if I left click on the player guy, I might need to find where he is really. But if I left click on the player guy, we can look at the components that are on him. There's a lot of stuff going on here, so like let's just talk about it a little bit. He's got a rigid body and a box collider, which means he's got like physics enabled, which we talked about last week. I guess if I wanted, I could like change the size of his collider, but that doesn't seem super helpful. He also has this seems pretty interesting. There's like a player controller script that has like speed and rotation speed and inventory. Like, yeah, there's like a lot of stuff, and these seem like pretty important. So like, this is a big one. Look at this. There's one that says hunger rate. Probably, and this is just my guess based on what was going on here. This hunger was like going down over time. This number probably changes how fast that disappears. So if I want to never die from hunger, I could probably set this to 0. Let's see, I'm going to click on I just lost it, so I'm going to click on you have to be in the scene view to be able to click stuff and show it in the inspector. But if I click on the guy again, I can go back to the script to just make sure, yeah, I set hunger rate to 0. And if I hit play now, I think, fingers crossed, yeah, my hunger meter stays full, so now I can run around with reckless abandon and never just fall on the floor dead. Yeah, sweet. Okay, sweet. So yeah, like stuff like this is like what you want to get into when you're like importing assets. Is like, okay, so I know that I can like walk around. I know that like I lose food over time. Like maybe they gave me some ways to like configure this. Like definitely some of these things are like, check this one out. We got jump speed here. Like we all know what this does. So we all know what'll happen if I set this to like 1000, right? Like, but I don't know. I'm just gonna do it because it's gonna be funny. Whoa! See ya. Alright. I think he's just, like, irrecoverably flying now. Like, I don't even know where anything is. He's off in the middle of nowhere. I guess that's the ground or something, and he's probably, like, I don't even know. But, like, more reasonably, you know, we can set this to, like, a different number where it's probably not 1000, but maybe, like, 15 would be entertaining and usable at the same time. Do, like, sick hops. Yeah, that's pretty nice. So even here, like, you can, I don't know, you can think of, like, making some game where it's like, you know, regular little platformer thing. Oh, that didn't do what I wanted it to. You can, like, add, I don't know, we can, like, delete all this stuff and change it to be, like, a more sparse, like, platforming level where you need to, like, jump from place to place, and maybe you want to change his speed and jumping things. But I think this scene is so cluttered and messy that I like really don't want to work in it. It's like, look at this. It's like not organized. There's all this junk. Like finding the player in this list is super hard. And sometimes people are really nice about this, and in this case they are. And there's like a different demo scene just called Simple. And if we open that one up, I'm not going to save anything that happened here. If we open that one up, we can see like, oh yeah. This is much easier to work with. We've got LP guy, which is our player. We've got the camera, which, you know, it's a camera. We got some lights. We have this HUD that's here. It gives us the hunger meter. And if I open the game tab, you can see that. Got a fireplace and mushrooms. But this is much more manageable. We can work with this. Yeah, I think... yeah. I can talk about this a little bit. I think, honestly, the first thing we want to do is just delete it, though, because HUDs are, like, a little weird to deal with. But, yeah, the HUD, if I double-click it, you can see is this, like, super giant thing that is the in-game HUD. And the reason it's so big is because, like, it takes like, Unity, like, 1 unit in Unity is a meter, but 1 unit on the HUD is a pixel. So, like, this is, like, 100 times bigger than, or, like, I don't know, some millions of times bigger than it would be in real life relative to everything else, and that's why it's so big. But, all that being said, like, I'm not really here to make a game. I mean, you can if you want, so I'm just going to, like, get rid of the HUD entirely. Delete. Nice. I think what I'm going for right now, or what I'm trying to get at, is just, like, let's, like, you know, make something where we can explore the environment, and set it up so that we can like make the environment interesting in, you know, whatever we want it to be. And like before, I'm gonna go. If you notice, actually, the player, like in this scene, all of these settings are like new. They're like fresh. So like the hunger rate is back to 0.5, even though I changed it in the demo scene. So to prevent my guy from just randomly dying, I'm gonna set it to 0 also. I think probably before, and also before I do anything else, I'm going to save this into a new scene. Okay, so file, save as. This is like kind of trippy actually, because this is not something that Unity is super clear about. But when you hit file save, it saves the scene, and when you hit file save as, it saves the scene, you know, wherever you put it. So I'm going to put it in our scenes folder, the one that's not inside low poly nature, and I'm just going to call it like, I don't know, adventure. adventure. So I think if you guys have your project open, I think we should try to get this far. Go into go into the low poly nature folder, and then go into scenes, and then double click on simple. And then there were some changes that I made to make this a little bit easier to work with. I deleted the HUD. I just left clicked on this HUD element in the hierarchy and hit delete. Now it's gone. I clicked on our player guy, and I set his hunger rate to 0 in the inspector, because if his food meter ever hits 0, he just goes into a death animation, and that's not what we want. And then I hit file and I hit save as, so we have our own copy of the scene that we can work with. That's not part of the assets folder. And this is really just for organizational purposes. I mean, you can work with the simple scene if you want, but it's nicer to not. It's nice to know where your stuff is, because if you open, and I do this all the time, I'll open a Unity project from 4 years ago and not have any idea where to start, because 4 years ago I was very poor at organizing my projects. But so yeah, I'm going to go back into my scene. I'm going to open this one up, the adventure scene. I'm just going to leave simple alone, so if I ever need it. Oh yeah, Len in the chat says, save often, Unity is prone to crashing. That is 100% true. Save often. For your sanity, save often. Okay, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we should all have a new scene that has this guy's hunger set to 0 so he doesn't die, and doesn't have the HUD on it. So when I press play, I can kind of walk around indefinitely and have this little, I can have a time just doing a thing. So yeah, I think the next thing we want to explore is just what does it take to add more stuff to this thing, right? If I don't know, I'll just experiment. If I take a cube and I put it here, well, I probably don't want to put it on top of the guy, and I don't think he can jump very high yet. So I'm gonna put it near the ground, maybe over here. Can he get on top of this, or do I need to do something special? I'm not sure yet. So I just put the cube in there, and I put it near to the ground so he can. So it looks like I can definitely run into it. He can't walk through it. And if I jump, maybe I can. Nice, perfect. I can get on top of this. So just by adding a cube to the scene and putting it somewhere reachable, I've discovered that regular Unity colliders just work with this asset. I don't have to do anything special. I don't have to change layers or give it a crazy material, or it doesn't seem to care. I can just make cubes. So just to get further into our purist project land, I'm going to switch to the scale tool up here and make this gigantic, or at least somewhat big, and get rid of the existing terrain. Let's get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of terrain. I'm going to get rid of fireplace. Apparently there's some mushrooms here. I don't really want those. What's up? Yeah, I don't know why that was, actually. I don't know if I did that just now. I'm just going to Control Z a bunch of times. Let me see if I hit play. Let me see if I hit play if I can. No, it seems to be okay. One thing that might be the problem is if you hit play, sometimes you need to click into the game window before your computer understands that you're trying to play the game, if that makes sense. So if you can't move, then maybe click on this. Did that help? There is not. The way input works in Unity, and this is a deep rabbit hole, but if you go into project settings, there's an input thing, and this is where the controls are set. So I think this is like, yeah, it's like by default, it's like horizontal is left, right, or A and D, and then vertical is set to down, up, and then S and W. Um, yeah, I'm not really sure if, can you get like even the demo scene to work? Like any of these ones? All right. Yeah, but if anyone else is having problems, definitely like ping the chat. I'll like try to make sure people can like follow along because everything we're gonna be building on the stuff that we do. I don't want anyone to get left behind. Um, oh man, I didn't save my scene. Okay, actually, I don't know why I have two LP guys. It didn't seem to be a problem, but I'm just gonna delete the second one because why not? Maybe you guys have a second one too. Just delete them for like posterity. I'm gonna go back to the part where I had like a giant thing. I'm gonna make a cube. I'm gonna get the scale tool out, and I'm just gonna make it like a really big floor kind of thing, so we have some room to work with. Going to delete the existing assets, the axe, the fireplace, the mushrooms. So now, I'll delete the inventory. I don't really need that either. I'm gonna hit play to make sure that this actually runs. Now that I've deleted stuff like the HUD and the inventory, that seems okay. Yeah, that seems okay. So, and now finally I'm gonna save. One thing that you might notice about like this thing is like yelling at me right now. It's like, hey, you don't have this or that or whatever. Um, Unity kind of like Unity like loves to complain. So just like if everything is working, don't worry about it. Really, like if you start importing a lot of assets, this thing will start going nuts. And you can kind of, it's really helpful if you do want to figure out like something's going wrong. You want to figure out like why. Like the answer will probably be in the console here somewhere. But if everything is working as expected, then you can, for the most part, just ignore it. It like doesn't matter. And if you like build and distribute the game, like no one's gonna see this anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Um, so yeah, so what we got now, is like a very blank scene with a guy that can like move around. This is like base level interactivity. We know that like if I'm gonna add another cube here. We know that he can kind of like climb onto small ramps. Oh, that's way too low. He can kind of climb up onto small ramps. So I'm just gonna like make a staircase to demonstrate this. Hopefully that's tall enough. So we know we have like some freedom in terms of like picking terrain and assets that we want to put in the scene. And we know that he can jump too, but tutorials are tricky, right? So yeah, I think the next thing to do, oh, I guess you guys should do this now too, like set up your scene. And if you want to keep the other assets in, like feel free. Like the whole point here is that we're just trying to like, we have a moving person and we want to make something happen. I think I showed a video earlier, but I'll just play it again briefly. Here and preview. The concept here, it's like this whole thing. It's like this isn't very far from this, right? Like let's just compare briefly. We've like changed the ground color to be green. We've changed the background to be green. We've like added some car assets, and we'll talk about this in a second. And we've added some text to the scene. But at the base level, there's just like all these things that are in your way, and you like navigate through them. And there's like this thing where I trick you into falling off a cliff, and then you find out it's like the same part, and it's like some time loop or something that you're in. It's like, oh. So yeah, I mean, feel free to make whatever you want. So what we can do is we can look into the low poly nature folder and look at like, let's look at the meshes tab. Look at the meshes in here. There's like a lot of stuff for us to work with here actually. I'm gonna put a mountain in here just because they're kind of cool. If I go into low poly nature and then meshes and then like pick any of these things and drag them into the scene, I think we did this with like a pig last time. Then it just gets added to the scene, and I can like move it around. I can like Um, I can make it smaller if I use the scale tool. I'm going to flatten it and shrink it a little bit. I actually kind of want it to be wide. And I'm going to make it flush to the ground a little bit. Now I've got a nice little mountain thing. I wonder, actually, if I hit play, yeah, that's what I thought. Like, I could just, like, walk straight through it. Which, you know, maybe you want that, but I don't think I want that, so I'm going to add a rigid, or a collider to this, like we did last week. Take a collider, I'm going to add a mesh collider. I'm gonna hit convex. Let's see how bad it looks. It's kind of bad. I'm gonna not hit convex then. Let's see how this works. Put a mesh collider on this cliff, so now hopefully my person can just climb on top of this. And actually, I'm feeling kind of like I like this. I like this like mountain climbing almost like concept that I'm starting with here. So I'm gonna take some of these mountain bits and. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally. That's what I want to go. That's what I want to go for. This is now like Zen Adventure. I really do want to play a short hike. Actually, go get the Racial Justice bundle if you haven't yet. Oh yes, this is something that I wanted to cover. So if I keep adding stuff to the scene, like I'm gonna add like a bunch of these mountains, right? This one even has a snow peak. You'll notice that like none of these have, because these are just meshes, they don't come with anything. They only come with like the mesh renderer and they only come with the mesh renderer and the mesh filter, but like nothing else. So if I try to walk through this, or if I like try to walk around this scene right now, like anything that I'm adding like doesn't have colliders by default, and it is sort of tedious to go through and add colliders to all of them. So there are a few things we can do to like make this go by faster. Like the first thing is if I have. So like this one and this one don't have colliders on them, right? Like, and I can click on them in the scene, and we'll see that it's like mountain 1 and then mountain snow 1. If I like hold shift or hold control and then click on the objects that I want to edit, then I can edit multiple ones at the same time. And now that I have both of these selected, now I can go over to add component and then type in mesh collider. And now both of these just got a mesh collider added to them. So if I hit play this time, my mountain just fell through the floor. Yeah, so now both of these have things. Both of these have colliders, and I only had to do it once. I'm gonna address some comments or some chat things now. Someone said my mountain just fell through the floor. Probably what you did is you added a rigid body to this. I kept saying rigid body out loud, but I was actually typing in mesh collider. But if you add a rigid body to your scene, or to your object, then it'll like be a physics object and will like have gravity and things like this. And there are some issues with rigid bodies and colliders in that, like, if we look at the underside of this, it doesn't have a face here. So like actually it's like if you were to hit this from below, it wouldn't hit anything. So when it tries to fall on this object, I mean, it kind of depends on how lucky you are, but it'll probably just like fall over. So that's definitely like important to keep track of. Like if you have objects that don't have faces, then adding colliders to them might like behave weirdly. And hopefully Unity will prove me right on this one. And if I turn it upside down, it'll actually... No, I was wrong. Okay, I don't know why actually this is... I think rigid bodies only work, and this is funny too. Like like I was saying earlier about something's going wrong. Let me look at the console. Non-convex mesh collider with non-kinematic blah blah blah. Oh my goodness, that is so impossible to understand. What this is telling you, if you like spend the time to like parse these quadruple negatives that is going on in the sentence, is that if you have a mesh collider that isn't, like if you have a collider that's not convex, and this is like a mathy term for like your collider has like inward curves, then it won't work with rigid bodies. So if you want a rigid body that actually, you know, behaves correctly, then you need to make the collider convex, and now this one will like sit on the thing. So ignore everything I said earlier about faces and things. But the reason you're all of that to say, the reason your mountain fell through the floor is because you added a rigid body to it. So if you don't want it to fall at all, then take the rigid body off, right click it, hit remove component. Or if you do want it to just like, fall and rest, then set your mesh collider to be convex. It'll make it like not match up perfectly. Like if I zoom into this, you can see that the collider is like really whacked out. But these are the trade-offs you just gotta live with. Okay, so I'm gonna put this back. Okay, all right. Unity just crashed my CPU. I am so sorry. Zoom is probably not helping at all either, and this is kind of why, like, speaking of, I'm gonna save right now. Save often. Good. Glad things are okay. How do you duplicate objects? So yes, this is another thing that I wanted to talk about. So while you're editing scenes, like I was just talking about how, I've got like all these objects that I need to add rigid bodies to. I don't really want to go in and still do that all the time. So someone else suggested, yeah, like I can use Command or Control D. If I like click on something and I hit Control D, it'll make a duplicate, and then now I have this extra one. This is exactly what you want to do. So like now that I've duplicated this mountain object, it's already got a collider on it, so this one already has a collider on it. Like now I don't have to do any of this setup. I've got, so now this mountain is climbable, and I didn't have to like really do anything. So a lot of like what you can do to make it easier to like build out complex scene, and this also works with copy paste. You can use Control D to duplicate, or you can, and I'll move this out so you can see that. And you can also like copy. You hit Control C, and then you don't have to deselect it. And then you hit Control V to paste whatever you had. And yeah, both of these keyboard shortcuts work with multiple selections. So if I like select all of these mountains and then I hit Control D, then I'll get 4 more new mountains, and that gives me like a lot of space to work with. Okay, I'm gonna keep going through these questions now. I think I saw one earlier that I really, really wanted. Yes, why did the cube automatically have a mesh collider, but the assets did not? The reason is that if I right click the scene, if I right click my hierarchy and I go into these like create objects, these are all like super special. Like these are not like, these aren't assets that are imported into. These are things that came with Unity, and they're kind of predefined to be a certain way. So and that's really the main reason. Like most of the ones in here will come with colliders. I think even like planes and quads do. So if you ever like make these like prototype the assets, or I think someone mentioned that these are good for prototyping, and this is kind of why, is because they come with colliders, and the colliders perfectly fit the object. Like if you look at them, you can't even tell that there's a collider on here because the collider perfectly fits. But if I move it over, you can see that like it's a perfect sphere, and this one is actually not a perfect. This is annoying. Actually, I forgot about this quirk of Unity, but let's just ignore that for now. But when you import assets, like Unity doesn't want to, you don't as a creator want Unity to make too many assumptions for you, because having colliders on your objects like costs CPU to have. Like maybe you actually want to be able to walk through some things, you don't know, like so it doesn't set anything up for you, and that's why we have to go in and add mesh colliders to all of these meshes that we add. Yeah, Len said basically the same thing. How can I change the color of the ground? Yes, super good question. So I think we touched on this like sort of like as extra credits last week, but let me just look at this and make sure I'm not crazy. Yes, okay. So if we click on any of these objects and we look at the mesh renderer, you can see that there's like, I think it's normally closed, but there's a materials thing on our mesh renderer, and like everything has a material associated with it. And some things like this one actually has, okay, that's confusing. I lied. Okay. Sometimes there's like multiple materials depending on how complex your mesh is. So sometimes it'll be like in this case there's 2 things here. So sometimes it'll be like, oh, snow material and ground material. And if I click on the cube, this one just says default material. So one way you can edit this, and I do not recommend that you do it this way, is if you just like double click on this. Oh, even Unity doesn't even let you do it. If you double click on the material that is in here, it takes you to the like edit this material thing, and you can like go in and change that. But because like especially for these assets, these are like these kind of like came with the asset pack. So I don't think we want to go in and change those, because that means if we want to go back to like what it was before, we're going to have a really, really hard time. So instead, I'm going to make a brand new material to work with. So if I right click my assets thing down here, I go to create, and I click material. I'll give this a name like, actually, maybe, where do we want to be? Like Mars? Do we want to be red? Let me go Mars red. It's the only thing I can come up with in 3 seconds. So I've got this new material. I called it Mars red. You can call it whatever you want. And if I look in the inspector here, I actually can like change these things. Like, and there's like, these are all the crazy like shader words for it, like albedo, metallic, smoothness, whatever. But really all you got to know is that this color picker is the color of the material. So if I like change this, you can see it changes here, changes in the preview. I wanted a Mars red, so I probably want it to be a little bit orangey, a little bit browny, kind of darky. Maybe a little bit more red than that, sure. So now we got this like nice little red material set up. I'm gonna go to my cube. I'm gonna drag this material over to this, and now my cube is red. And actually, as I went over the scene, you can see that you can do it that way too, where like, hey, I want this to be red. I'm gonna take my material, I'm gonna drag it on top there, cool. Now that's red too. I can do that for all of these if I wanted. Maybe now we're like, for some reason, in a mountainous, I don't think Mars is even all that mountainous. Now we're in a Martian mountain range. Which is not very zen anymore, but you know, sure, why not? Sure, yeah. So actually, I'll even like touch this up, because all this being one color is a little drab. So if I right click down here and I right click in the assets panel, like down at the bottom, I go up to create. There's like hella options here, but the one we want right now is material. We want to make a new material. I'm going to call this one Mars Red 2. I don't even know what to call. And if I have this selected, then all the options will show up here in the inspector. And the one I want to change is really just the color. So I'll like go in here and click. If I like click on this white section here, that brings up the color picker. And you can do like crazy stuff, like this like eyedropper will let me just pick arbitrary colors off of my screen, which is fun. Maybe I want this blue. But I could also, change the color using the color wheel and clicking inside the screen, or I can type in the values if I know them. You can make things transparent, but I would recommend against it, because it's really hard to make transparent stuff actually work correctly, and you can find that out if you play with it. But I want a slightly different red, so I'm just going to make it slightly different. And now I can either click on my objects if I wanted to be super like for sure about what I'm doing. I can click on my object and then open up the materials thing inside the mesh renderer on the right side, and then put the new material in there. You can see that this just changed. Or if I have the scene tab open, I can drag my material onto whatever object I want to change the color of. I would be careful with doing it this way, because you kind of don't, sometimes assets have like 15 materials and you don't know what's going to happen. No, actually, maybe I want to make this guy a little alien dude. So I'm going to make another green one. So I think while I'm doing this, like, you guys are free to do anything you want. Alien green. I'm going to make this green. And I'm going to put it on my guy. Nice. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna look at the comments again, or the chat again. Oh, I don't know. One's just answering questions. No, go ahead. Hearing it from multiple people anyway is super helpful, because I might explain something one way, someone else might explain it a different way, that kind of stuff. Oh, do the difference colliders do different things, is the question that was being asked. No, they don't exactly do different things, they just are different shapes. So if we look at, like, the box collider is a box. If I type in collider here, we can look at all of them. Collider. Just ignore all the 2D ones, because we're not in 2D. There's box, there's capsule, which means it's like 2 rounded ends and a cylinder. There's sphere. There's wheel, that's an interesting one, I didn't know about that. Terrain, which I don't think we're going to talk about these sessions. And then mesh, which is the one that just takes the mesh that is inside the mesh filter and uses that as a way to generate the collider. Okay. I'm not gonna make my scene too complex, just so I can like keep talking about it. But I think the concept I want to do is like there's going to be like a thing you got to climb, and when you get to the top, it'll say, "Hooray, you did it." Uh, it would be fun to explore this in like a this is the valley of your emotions, and we got to get to the that's you can do that if you want. Um, one thing that I find to be really like a really good tool, and I didn't kind of go over this last time because it's like weird to do, but if you want to add text to text to the scene, like floating text, is actually really easy. In the same way we added like cubes before, if you right click the scene, or if you right click your hierarchy and then make sure it's 3D object, and then there's like two, sometimes three options for text. Choose this one, the one that says text. Type in Text Mesh Pro. It's really annoying actually that it didn't do the thing. But when you click that for the first time, it'll be like, hey, you're using Text Mesh Pro. Oh, actually, here's the window. I found it. It just spawned in a weird place. It's like, whoa, this is the first time you just, whatever. You don't even have to read it. Just click the stop button. The story here is that Unity has its own text system, but it is so bad that someone else made one that everyone used instead, essentially. And then Unity was like, oh, this is so much better than what we have that we're just going to make it part of our project. So that's why this import system is so like busted, because it's not actually Unity official, but it's so good that it's good. Someone asks, does the mesh collider slow down the speed? This is actually an interesting thing to talk about because it does slow it down a little bit, and the big trick is that it really only slows it down if you have a rigid body. So like you can have like thousands of these colliders without really running into problems, but you cannot have thousands of rigid bodies in a scene without having problems. Like you kind of have to be careful with that. And like, but if you have like a sick computer, then you can run fun physics simulations with like thousands of objects, at the cost of making your room really hot in 90-degree weather, which is why I normally do renders in the winter. But so yeah, once you have Text Mesh Pro imported, and now that I've gone through the first time setup, I can like keep adding these, and it's like no problem. Like, okay, cool. And you'll notice that these are just like 3D objects; they're just flat. So we can like resize them. This thing looks all crazy. Just kind of don't worry about it. We can still use the same tools as we had before. Like I'll open up the scale tool. Obviously, scaling it in the Z-axis doesn't do anything, but if I like make it smaller, I can make it real small. I could also there's like hella settings in here. I can like change the font size, but this is how you would change the text too. Is like you click on the object, go over to its component, and then you can type whatever you want in. It's like welcome to Mars. This thing is kind of huge, so let's do like 12. I'm going to put this down here. Actually, let's see what that looks like. Yeah, what I really want is I want this to face the camera when we start. So I'm going to like click the camera, see it's kind of skewed off to the side. So I'm going to rotate this a little bit. Rotate. Oh, that's a crazy rotation. Chill out, guy. How about that? Ooh, fancy. Ooh, I like that. Diegetic text. Actually, if I look at the game tab, the background is pretty wonky too. So like, for just for full artisanal purposes, I don't really want the background to look like that. If I click on the camera, like it's not like there's a thing back here. This is weird to explain, but it's not like this horizon really exists. There's this concept of a skybox that's like really just like the background texture that's always there. And that's what, if we click on the camera and look at the components, that's what it's set to by default. It's like, whoa, the clear flag. It's set to skybox. Like, okay, that's why we have this kooky thing. And you can replace the skybox if you want, and the asset store is great at finding skyboxes for you. But I actually just want to make it black. So I'm going to take the camera, I'm going to set the solid color, and then I'm going to choose black. So now if I go to this, it like, ooh, that's actually a little spooky, but I'll take it. I have a TMP importer pop up that I can't close. Okay, so I don't know why this kind of happened to me too, but if as long as you click the import at the top, like there's two buttons on it. There's one at the top that says import TNP essentials, and the bottom one you don't have to you can ignore. But as long as you click the top one, then I think you should be able to close it. There's like an X button in the corner, and it still won't go away. You can also secretly you can kind of like ignore it too. I mean maybe also. And this is a problem if you have multiple screens, is that it might be downloading and installing TextMesh Pro, but the progress bar could be like hidden somewhere. Like the progress bar could be off to the side or on a different screen. So if you can't go into your editor and make changes, then maybe like wait a couple minutes and then try it again. And if that doesn't work, then you might have to like restart the whole thing. Okay, I'm just gonna assume that worked then. So. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna make a few more changes to this. I want to tell people what to be able to do, so I'm just gonna say WASD and space. I'm gonna put this in. Please, what's up? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you have a good sense. You even have a good sense for like how it would work, but it's not like an option that we get. We're definitely in like no coding land, so I can probably entertain because there's only really one more thing I want to cover. So I can probably entertain for a second. Like, if I go into the asset store and type in like curved, maybe. Look at that. Well, this one's $35, but you can get it if you want for $35. I remember seeing a 2D one here that was free, but that was like 2D only. So if you really, really wanted to commit to the to the no coding version of this, then you can have it for $35. But there are other. Yeah, this is the other approach. Is using a shader. There's like, I'm not gonna try this because I don't know what this is gonna do exactly. But if you like, and this is the way that like Animal Crossing works. If you've ever played that, it's actually a flat world, but there's a shader applied to make everything look like it bends away from the camera a little bit, so that when you're like looking at the game itself, it's like, oh, I'm like walking around a curved whatever, but it's actually just like a huge flat area or whatever. And I think this asset might do that for you. Actually, it seems like right now they're using it for some like super crazy artsy stuff, but you could probably just in this background you can see this one is just curved into a ball shape. This would probably actually totally do what you wanted it to. And I think we'll cover post-processing stuff next week, or kind of next week's content is like up to you guys. But okay, before we move on, I'm just gonna set this up so that it's like WASD in space. I'm gonna like copy this and say like find the prize or something, so we have like a quote-unquote complete experience. Find the prize. And then I'll stick a prize up here. Let's go back into low poly nature. Let's go into meshes. Something in here has got to look like tasty, right? How about this gem? I'm gonna take this gem. I'm gonna make it huge. Scale tool. Bigify. And maybe make it blue. Right click here. Make a material. Blue. This might be a good time actually to cover. I'm gonna put this material in here. Okay, and now I can edit this material and look at the gem. There's like other kinds of materials up here. Like if I look up here, that that's a great question. I'll address that in a second. If you click up here, there's different kinds of shaders, and this is how like if we were actually to get this shader, this is probably one of the ways that we would like actually use it. So if you like click on your materials and you click through this list, there's a bunch of different kinds. And most of them you don't really want to touch. Standard and standard specular are pretty solid. And then unlit is good if you just want things to not be shaded at all. You can see now this is just like a white cutout. But what I'm looking for in here is this emission thing. And I want this to be like, I want to give off blue. So what emission does, and these are kind of fun to mess around with if you just like move the sliders and see how they feel and stuff like that. But emission's a fun one because it makes this like literally give off light. And I've set it to be like blue. I'm gonna make this the same blue too. So why did that not work? Oh, because it's set to white. So now I've got this like blue thing that like gives off blue light. It's pretty sweet. Let's up the intensity a little bit. So this, I guess this will be our prize. So yeah, cool. Now I've got like a something of a project. I've got like a guy I can move around. If I, hop up this mountain, which is surprisingly difficult, then I can find this gem and I go, woo, I did it. Okay, I'll look at the chat again. Is there a way to move the camera view while you are playing, i.e., not looking at the alien from above? Yeah, that's actually like something that is worth playing around with. So if I click on the camera and move it, I don't know what happens when I hit play. Oh, that's pretty good actually. So I can kind of like change the angle of it. Like before it was up high, but now it's like closer to the ground. I mean, the only issue is that if I like walk into a mountain, I can get into trouble because I'm like looking at him through a mountain. And if we click on the camera and look at the inspector, you can see that there's like this is kind of strange looking script. It's like there's player follow. It's got some like, oh, I can set it to look at the player and rotate around, and oh, apparently I can rotate the screen with the middle mouse button if I wanted. Let's see. Oh yeah. I mean, that's kind of nice for like messing with messing around to see what angle I like really want. Maybe this one is good. I mean, I kind of liked this angle. And I think even this player follow script lets us like pull the camera way back, and it'll still stay at like the same relative distance. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know how who wrote the script or how it works, but it seems to be like pretty useful. I could even have this come at a different angle if I wanted. One last thing, I swear this is the last thing that I want to talk about in terms of setting up this game, is if I like go this way and I fall, like now the player is like done, right? Like this game is now over and now they have to quit it and restart, and that's like really not so good. And we're still in no coding land, so I don't want to set up any like special behavior so that if you jump off the side it like restarts or anything like that. One thing that we can do is, this is kind of a cop-out. If I take this mountain and I copy and paste it and I move it back here and then like make it unclimbable, just like, make it super tall, make it so that they can't get past this. That's like definitely one way to deal with it, like just block it off so that you can't escape the scene unless you're like very, very dedicated. So now if I like try to walk back here, obviously like, it's not going to work. And even if I don't know, I can try to find a hole in the scene. Well, I mean, people might even do this, and they might fall off, and it might be like kind of upsetting if they do. But one other thing you can do is if you don't want to like block off, I kind of want to see the blackness of the background. I'm going to delete this mountain. You can make a cube. I'm going to make it really big so that they can't walk this way. Scale tool, bigify. It's an official scientific term. Huge. Okay, cool. Now this is huge. They are not getting past this wall. I'm going to put it like here. They are not getting past this wall. But this is obviously so ugly. This is like, you don't want this in your scene at all. You can go in here and just disable the mesh renderer. Like there's all these components and each individual component can be enabled and disabled. And if you disable the mesh renderer but you leave the box collider enabled, then you won't be able to see it, but you will be able to walk into it. So now I like can't. I've set up like invisible walls for everything. Now like, and you can set up these like guardrails around your entire scene if you want, or you can like do it so that it's diegetic. So like different pieces of mountain will do it, and things like that. Cool, great, sweet, yeah. that's like basically everything I wanted to cover. I think the next thing that I wanted to talk about was just exporting these projects so that they're runnable. But I think before we get there, I want to look at like if anyone has any questions or if we want to take a break or something. I think now is the time to like just talk about some stuff for a bit. Okay, someone says, will I be offering a coding in Unity workshop in the future? I probably will not this month. Someone else is doing a series on coding in Unity. So, go check that out. If you know, I mean, I don't know. I think one thing that I will, and if anyone has any suggestions for what you want to talk about next week, it's like kind of up to you. I'm planning on just doing like more advanced versions of this, like different, like finding assets that are like even crazier, or even me making some simple assets that'll like let you like make way crazier stuff without coding. But there's other things that I haven't really touched that maybe people are interested in, like turning on VR or using. Well, I don't actually know how to do AR stuff in Unity, so don't ask me about that. Or like, I could talk about multiplayer, but that might take an entire session. There are some nice frameworks out there that might do it for you. Phone exporting, please, Sadie. Yeah, what's up? Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you guys like another 30 seconds to a minute to like say stuff before I move on to like exporting this as a project. Feel free to unmute yourself at this point now too if you want to. Sorry, there's a pop-up on my screen. I realize it's because I'm opening my AirPods case. Oh, hi. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. Yeah. So the question was, again, your voice isn't recorded, so I'm just repeating the question. The question was, you had a Text Mesh Pro thing, but you tried to add it to the scene and it was invisible because you took it out of a canvas. There are multiple ways to add objects to the scene in this right-click menu. There's 2D. Wait, what? There's like UI Text Mesh Pro, and there's also like 3D Object Text Mesh Pro. This is the one you want, the one that's inside 3D Object. This is the one that isn't inside a canvas, so it like behaves as a 3D object. So I think what happened is you like ended up with somehow like a UI Text Mesh Pro, and this is the one that's inside a canvas, and it becomes invisible if you take it out. So if you want, and that's like a different, like it's actually kind of nice how this works. If I just add this like, if I add a UI Text Mesh Pro to the scene, then it just becomes visible here. Like it just says new text now. It's kind of huge, but now this is just in the middle of my screen. If I hit play, cool, sounds like that solved it for you. And if you hit play, like if you add UI Text Mesh Pros to the scene, they'll just like stick to your camera and always be there. And this is how you can like set up UI or something if you have some way to change this text and things like that. So I just lost the last word. What did you say? Yeah. I think you can, and it is one of these things that like, the asset store here is really, really fleshed out. So if you look up like UI frameworks or interaction frameworks, you might be able to get specific features that you want to play with and maybe get there faster. But for the most part, I would say like no. like if you know how to program and you want to do like you want to make UX prototypes, this is really not the place to do it because the UI system in here is like way worse than your like web page prototypes could be. I mean, if you want like 3D content, that's a different story entirely, right? Like if you want to make a UI out of like floating 3D objects, Unity is totally the place to do it. The 3D stuff is totally first class, and the UI is kind of like second class. Okay, all right. So I've got like 40-ish minutes. I might even be able to show you guys how to turn VR on. It's actually really easy. But before we get anywhere else, I just want to I want to export this project so that I can like give it to other people, and I'll talk about that, like all of the different caveats there. But first, I'm going to save my project. Have good habits. Save your project. If we go into File, and honestly, this part might be the easiest thing in the entire workshop. You go to File and you hit Build and Run. Okay, it'll ask us to put it somewhere. I would recommend not just putting it here because it'll clutter up your thing. So like make a new folder somewhere that's like named something. I'm gonna name mine Week 2 Builds. Week 2 Builds. And now, if I can find where the progress bar is, there it is. It's just going. So, when that's done, it's actually gonna open. So I'm gonna talk about some other stuff first. So if we look at the top here, it says PC, Mac, and Linux standalone. By default, Unity builds to whatever operating system that you're using at the moment, right? So I'm on Windows, so this is gonna be a Windows build. And if you're on Mac, it'll make you a Mac build. If you're on Linux, I don't even know if Unity on Linux actually is a thing anymore, but I guess you might be able to make a Linux build. But if I open up Unity Hub, like say I wanted like a phone build, like I wanted this on my phone. I mean, the controls aren't going to work, but maybe I had like a video or I had something that takes, something. Maybe I just wanted to build it on phone. If I go to my installs and find the one that I'm using right now, this one, 2018-4, 22F1, I click these three dots and I click Add Modules, then I can add support for building to like anything else. And I mean, iOS is here. I don't know if this is real, but if I can build iOS on Windows, that would be cool. This is a different thing. You can kind of ignore this, but the ones that I think are super important, Android, obvious reasons, you can build to phones on Android. iOS, obvious reasons, you can build to iPads and iPhones. But also there's WebGL build support, which lets you build to web pages. So if I like go onto, I don't know, Unity WebGL example. Actually, here I got a good one. One of these. This is an asset that I'm going to send out this doc, or I sent it out a little bit while ago. This is a really, really, really good asset. Actually, it gives you like it lets you climb up walls and do wall runs and ladders and things like that. So if you wanted to make a parkour thingy or just wanted something that your character is very athletic, this is a good asset for it. But they have actually made us a WebGL build that's got hella ads on it, I guess. All right, Mr. Colander P. So now I am playing this game in my browser. It's a really, really good way to... Can I repeat the step-by-step for exporting? Yes. Right now Unity is locked up for me because I'm currently exporting, but I will do it again when I am finished. I think... Oh, it's not locked up. Okay. Usually it is. Okay, so to export this, all you have to do is you go up to the top left, you hit File, and you click Build and Run. And then it'll open up I really, really don't want to click this button because it's going to freak out. But it'll ask you to like choose a folder to save your build to. I would really suggest making a new folder and putting it there. And then once you do that, it'll be like doing this thing. Oh, I forgot a really important step. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, I actually have to cancel this. Oh, no. Oh, okay. Okay. Actually, don't do that. I mean, if you let it build right now, it'll default to a weird scene. So, okay. So if I go into File and then Build Settings, I totally forgot about this step. The default scenes in the build are actually the demo scene and the simple scene. So the build that we were just about to play would have loaded us up into this demo scene, like, first. So actually what we need to do before any of this really works is we gotta go into build settings, make sure our actual scene is open. We gotta go into build settings. We have to hit add open scenes, and then reorder this so that it's the first one. So the scene that I want to like show off is like scene/adventure, and if I deselect these, it'll build faster because I'm not actually building the other scenes. But the Unity project always starts on the 0 scene, like the first one in this build. So yeah, apologies, but before you hit File, Build, and Run, you need to go into the build settings and make sure the scene that you want in the build is here. And if you ever set up like scene switching, they all need to be in this list for it to work. So, and whichever one is the first one, the one labeled 0 in the top right, will be the one that opens when you build and run. So okay, now that I have that set up for actual real this time, I'm going to build, and it's going to build. Okay. But yeah, if we look at build settings, you can see all the platforms that I was talking about are here. Apparently you can do tvOS, that's crazy. But yeah, like PS4, Xbox One. The Switch is secretly on this list, but you need to be like a Nintendo partner to get access to it. You kind of need to be a Nintendo partner to even do Xbox One and PS4. But there's WebGL here too, which is the one that I was just talking about. Like you can play stuff. You can play stuff in your browser. And yeah, like to do that, I mean, maybe it'll come in by the time I'm done, but it probably won't. I'm going to try to install WebGL build support. Yeah, and if you know how to like, if you do that and you want to know how to upload a web page, just like ping me. I'll show you some easy ways to set that up. But this lets you just make it into a web page and then share it with people that way, which is sometimes a lot easier. But building takes a long time. So I guess we're talking about, we're open for questions again. Or like anything while I wait and while you guys wait for yours to build too. I wonder if I can... Yeah, I can talk briefly about like how to turn on... Like VR is actually so easy to turn on, it's hilarious. If you go into Edit and then Project Settings, I'm just going to keep this visible so we know what we're waiting for. And then we go into Player. Oh, it's building, so I can't click anything on this list. That's unfortunate. Alright, never mind. I won't talk about that then, for now. Yeah, thanks for coming. If you, want to go now, that's fine. I think we're going to talk a little bit about when this is done. Well, I mean, maybe I don't even have to have it finished. We're just going to talk a little bit more about building and then maybe go through, VR, setting up and activating VR and answering any more questions. So, yeah. See ya. If I go into where I save this stuff, Documents, Unity, Tutorial, V2 builds. Oh, it's empty, actually. Oh, I was hoping that there would be some stuff in there. My alien doesn't climb mountains, only moves in directions and collides. Any ideas? Yeah, so I was experimenting with this a little bit, and it seems like if... he can only climb up slopes that are so tall, so you might need to, squish your mountains down a little bit so that they can actually... so that they can, he can actually, climb that. So if your mountain is, too high or one of the faces is too tall, then you won't actually be able to, get above or, climb on top. So that's something that you can play around with. And it might be that there's some settings on the player that you can modify so that he can climb higher slopes, but I'm not sure. I don't think I can get into it right now because this thing is building. There's a slope limit in the character controller. That's exactly what I was talking about. There's a slope limit in the character controller. If you click on LP guy, one of the things will be character controller, and it probably has a slope limit thing that you can increase so that it can go up higher slopes. Someone says I've been getting the error. All compiler errors have to be fixed before you can enter play mode. Okay. If it doesn't let you hit the play button, that's when you know that there is actually something in your project that is preventing you from it working. and unfortunately, without like, I mean, feel free to like paste. It's gonna be a lot of errors. There's gonna be one error in there, or one of the errors in there is gonna be like the like, hey, this is just never gonna work kind of error. Like a lot of them, anything that's red. Actually, if you can't even get into the play, like there's probably only like one or two red errors that will tell you more information about what's going on. So if you go on the bottom and then you click on the console here, I'm like wiggling my mouse in front of it. If you click on the console and then look through that list, there might be something like, oh, like you named something wrong, or like you set up, you added a thing to the scene that doesn't actually exist, or it can't find something or other. Um, if the error is like super mysterious, this is another thing about like Unity generally. If you get stuff that you don't get, it's like, whoa, I don't understand what's going on. You can like usually paste it into Google, and someone else has almost certainly like run into that and then like try to figure it out. That that helps a lot. And one thing you can do. I don't know why this is taking so long. One thing you can do if you ever get into like a lot of trouble and you're like, I really don't want to nuke my whole project, but I really want it to work, is you can like re-import everything. If you like right-click inside your project thing and then you hit re-import all, it'll usually either complain specifically about something or start working, one of the two. I mean, I hope that helps you, but we kind of won't know. I have a feeling actually that the reason this isn't building is because Zoom is like Zoom and OBS are like taking up all of my compute power. So I think I'm gonna try to track down something else that I've built and then talk about it that way, because there's not too much really left to talk about. Like, give me 1 second while I try to figure this out. Actually, I'm gonna do this on the off screen in case I have some NDA projects that I can't. Look at Dropbox. Go into Dropbox. There's no build in there. Bear with me 1 second. I'm so sorry. Nope. Maybe in my documents I can find one. No, I actually can't. Okay, well, we'll just pretend for a second that there's a build in here. I'm gonna even like, it's gonna look something like this. It's gonna be like simple projects. I don't use this. Simple projects.exe. Don't try not to ever do what I'm doing right now. And there's going to be a folder in here that's like Unity assets or something. I don't know exactly what it's going to be called. And there might be some other files in here like something dot something. I don't know. Normally like people won't need to download anything else to like play your game. Like all you need to do is take everything that's in this folder and give it to them. Easiest thing to do would just be to like right click and I actually don't know if this is, yeah, I right click and then like in here send to zip folder, and now you've got this like fancy zip file with everything in it, and you can actually it's funny because Gmail complains if you try to email this to people. So like if you can upload it to Google Drive and give them that link, that is how you can get this game to people. Obviously they have to be in the right, like this is an exe, so it'll be, they need to be on Windows to play it. But yeah, because this is not finishing, and if this doesn't finish for anyone else, I'm gonna try to figure this out like afterwards. And if it never finishes for you either, I'm gonna like maybe like post something or send you guys an email about like what is going on here. Mine finished really. Okay, cool. That's good to know actually. As long as it's working for other people, I don't really mind. I really think my computer is just like really unhappy with me right now. But yeah, that's basically all for me. You know, if there's not any questions, I'm just going to cancel this and then do this VR thing. Okay, yes. Yeah, VR build, let's do it. If you go, and this is really kind of only going to work for people who have a headset like currently plugged into their computer. So if you don't have it plugged in, you know, go do that. Or like, wait a second and then go do it, actually, because I'm just going to show you. So if you go into edit and then project settings, and if you don't care about like VR stuff, like feel free to leave. Like, thanks for coming again. I'll post, the next session's already posted, so like sign up and definitely check out Queens Public Library website and Instagram. Where am I going? Okay, so I went into edit and then project settings, and now I'm going into player, edit, project settings, player, and then right here there's a thing that says XR settings. We open that, and literally it's this easy. You just check this box that says virtual reality supported. It's gonna do a bunch of importy nonsense, blah blah blah, and there's like, you know, ways that you can set up like more complex. Oh my goodness. Like when you check this box, all that's gonna happen, and hopefully I can show this to you if I can plug in my VR headset without my computer crashing. All this is gonna do, and this has a bunch of stuff set up by default, is that now if you have a VR headset plugged in and you press play, you'll be able to, it'll take like the current camera position and use that as your like entry point into VR. So when you like look around and move around, you'll just be able to look at the scene that you made, like without making any more changes. You won't have anything like controls or like movement, and maybe you'll have weird behaviors with existing scripts and assets in your scene. But if you're doing stuff like for example, you have some 3D models that you just want to look at in VR. This is a really, really easy way to do it. You just make a scene with it, you turn on VR, you plug in your headset, and you just click this play button. So yeah, now is the time to try it. Well, because I'm pretty sure as soon as I plug this headset into my computer, there's like a 20 to 45% chance that my computer will crash. And I normally have it like plugged in already, but I just recently reorganized my desk placement. So now I'm finally plugging this back in for the first time. Okay. All right, Oculus is starting up. Building to the Quest is a little bit more complicated, and there are guides on that online. It's mainly because you have to set up. I know no one asked this, but if you want to build to a Quest, like you should look up a guide on how to do it, because you have to make like you have to make an Oculus. You have to make a Facebook developer account before you're allowed to upload things to your Quest, and then there's a way to set that up in Unity. But okay, my headset is running, and now if I hit play, hopefully I have even one camera plugged in. Do I? I guess not. Yeah, so now if I hit play, you can see that like my camera is just where I had it set up, and if I like move it around, it like moves my view around. It's like it's seriously just that easy. And like wherever you put the camera is where it starts. The only thing that's hard to control is like the starting orientation, and that like if you're interested in like tricks on how to set up robust VR installations, I could do a totally different session on that. But yeah, like again, this is a great way to just like, hey, I want to see stuff in VR. It's like everything is in Unity is like 1 meter. 1 unit in Unity is 1 meter in real life. So if you want to map things to real life, you can use that as like a guideline, or like that's just like how it works. And it translates to like true dimensions in VR too. Okay, I'm gonna try to put this on for a second. Oh my goodness, not having positional tracking is nauseating. So yeah, now I'm officially actually totally out of things to talk about. So please, more questions, or like I'll just hang out here, I guess, for the next 15-20 minutes, or until everyone leaves. Maybe I can talk about some or dig through my old Unity projects and show you guys that. I don't know. I want to see old projects. Sure. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna have to dig them up. Yeah. How do you add? Yes, these are the kind of questions I like to see. How do you add material color to mountain again? Ah, Len's got it covered, huh? Yeah, you want to make a new material in the project. Right click, create material. You set up your material, you click on it, change the color, and then you either drag it onto the object that you want in the scene view, or click on the object you want to edit and drag it onto the materials thing. Yeah, the only trouble about digging up old projects is that I also reorganized where all my files were, so all of my project links broke. Which is, normally I'm so good at having access to things that I want to show off, but not today. Let's see, Google Drive, old desktop Unity, no, that's not bad actually. Hold up, I want this one. Actually, I hope this opens, because this one's really fun. Unity music video. Oh, Diane says, I recently commissioned a Unity music video. Yeah, paste the link, we'll look at it. Absolutely. Hopefully it's in this list now. Totally. Oh man. Why was that not a Unity project? That's a little sad. Maybe it's empty. Oh, Elizabeth, thank you. I appreciate you. Test. Desktop. Yeah, grab it, please. Okay, here we go. This might be a good one. What? Oh, here it is. Unity version unavailable. Good luck, me. I hope that works. Oh, one thing that I kind of is worth bringing up, if you like video games and you want some inspiration for Unity stuff, go get this bundle. It's so good. Racial Justice and Equality bundle. 1,500 games. They're so good. Celeste is in there. All right, let's click this link. Our director was an ITP grad. Oh, cool. Awesome. Represent, right? ITP, what? This is my first ITP camp, so I don't feel like I'm so inoculated in the cult. Okay, here we go. Can you guys hear my desktop audio right now? I'm gonna test it. I'm actually gonna just test it with this video. Can you hear my desktop audio? He's talking. This dude's talking, blah, blah, blah. No? Okay. Let's see. Maybe if I click Firefox. Okay, how about now? He's saying, this dude is saying stuff. Oh. Oh no, that's not good. Oh, I gotta edit out that stuff now. I'm actually just gonna stop recording.